A queen among wolves. Rome rose before Cleopatra like a beast made of stone. From the deck of her ship, she watched the city unfold, its crowded harbours, its shouting docks, its endless rooftops packed so tightly they seemed to crush one another. Alexandria had been graceful, built for learning and beauty. Rome was different. Rome was built to dominate. She felt it immediately. This city did not welcome queens. It devoured them. Cleopatra stood at the bow, dressed not in excess, but in tension. Every fold of her robe, every jewel, every strand of hair had been chosen with care. Rome respected power, not apology. If she arrived small, Rome would make her smaller. If she arrived proud, Rome would be forced to pause. Behind her, hidden beneath silken cloth and guarded by loyal hands, slept her son, Caesarion, the child who tied Egypt's fate to Rome's most powerful man, Julius Caesar. The invitation that was not a choice. The message from Caesar had arrived months earlier, written in the firm, controlled hand of a man used to being obeyed. He had won the civil war. Pompey was dead. Rome now bent toward one ruler, though it dared not say the word aloud. Caesar wanted Cleopatra in Rome, not in secret, not in disguise, openly. Cleopatra had understood the danger instantly. Rome was not Alexandria. It did not tolerate foreign queens, especially not ones who ruled rather than bowed. To walk into Rome was to walk into a nest of vipers, but to refuse was worse. Rome did not forgive refusal, so she agreed. A city that watched her breathe. When Cleopatra entered Rome, she felt eyes on her from every direction. Senators watched from behind marble columns. Noblewomen stared with thinly veiled hostility. Soldiers glanced at her longer than necessary. She heard her name whispered in corners, twisted, reshaped, sharpened into something ugly. They had imagined a temptress. What arrived was a ruler. Cleopatra spoke Latin as if she had been born to it. She listened more than she spoke, and when she did speak, men found themselves answering before realizing they had been questioned. Rome did not know what to do with a woman who understood its laws better than its own citizens. That frightened them. Caesar's house, Rome's humiliation. Caesar did nothing to ease Rome's fear. He housed Cleopatra in his own estate, overlooking the city like a challenge carved in stone. He did not hide her presence. He did not deny her importance. He welcomed her openly, her and her child. To the Roman elite, this was humiliation. A foreign queen living in Caesar's home. A child rumored to carry his blood. A woman who did not lower her gaze. Cleopatra felt the tension every day. Roman senators smiled tightly. Their wives avoided her entirely. Invitations stopped arriving. Conversations fell silent when she entered a room. She had seen this before. In Alexandria, before exile. The statue that changed everything. Then Caesar made his greatest mistake. He ordered a statue of Cleopatra placed in the temple of Venus, a living queen honored among Roman gods. Rome exploded. This was no longer rumor or insult. It was provocation. Senators spoke openly of tyranny. Caesar was accused of planning to crown himself king. Cleopatra became the symbol of everything Rome feared. Foreign power, monarchy, control. Cleopatra understood at once. This statue was not about her. It was about Caesar testing Rome's limits. And Rome was reaching for knives. The silence before the storm. Cleopatra felt it before the city spoke it aloud. The air in Rome changed. Men stopped arguing and started agreeing too easily. Smiles lingered too long. Caesar dismissed her concerns with a wave of his hand. He had survived too many wars to fear whispers. Cleopatra had survived betrayal. She knew the difference. She began preparing quietly. Supplies were moved. Ships were readied. Trusted servants memorized escape routes. Cleopatra did nothing openly. Panic was dangerous. Planning was survival. Every night she held her son longer. The day Rome turned on itself. March arrived cold and tense. On the morning of the Ides, Cleopatra did not attend the Senate. A strange unease held her back, sharp and unyielding. She watched Caesar leave, his cloak heavy with authority, his confidence unshaken. He never returned. By afternoon, the palace echoed with screams and running feet. A servant collapsed before her, breathless, eyes wild. Caesar was dead, stabbed by men he trusted, killed in the heart of Rome, left bleeding at the foot of Pompey's statue. Cleopatra felt the world tilt. In a single moment, her protector was gone, and she understood the truth with terrifying clarity. She was now the most dangerous woman in Rome, a queen alone among wolves. Night fell on a city in chaos. Rome did not mourn. It celebrated. It called the murder freedom. Cleopatra closed her doors and gathered her loyalists. There would be no justice for Caesar. There would be no mercy for his queen. The men who killed him would not stop at his blood. She looked down at Caesarion, sleeping peacefully, unaware that the world had shifted beneath him. Cleopatra did not cry. Queens could not afford tears. She whispered only one promise into the dark. They would leave Rome alive, no matter the cost. Cleopatra did not sleep the night Julius Caesar died. Rome screamed outside her windows, voices echoing through stone streets, celebrations clashing with fear, torches flickering like restless spirits. The city was alive in a way that felt wrong, as if it were feeding on blood. She stood by the window, watching shadows move below, holding Caesarion close. Her son breathed softly, unaware that his father lay dead in the Senate, and that his own existence now placed a target on his back. By dawn, Cleopatra understood what Rome would never say aloud. Caesar was dead, and therefore she was next. The city that turned its face. The days following the assassination were worse than the night itself. No messenger came from the Senate. No explanation. No protection. Instead, rumors spread like fire. They said Cleopatra had corrupted Caesar. They said she planned to crown her son king of Rome. They said Egypt would rule the republic through her womb. Each lie made her survival more uncertain. The smiles she once endured vanished entirely. Roman women crossed the street to avoid her. Former allies refused to meet her eyes. Even servants hesitated before speaking. Cleopatra recognized the pattern. This was how societies prepared themselves for violence, by first convincing themselves it was justified. The child who could not stay. Caesarion was the danger Rome could not tolerate, a living reminder of Caesar's defiance, a possible heir, a symbol too powerful to ignore. Cleopatra knew Rome's history well enough to understand its cruelty. They would not imprison the child. They would erase him. She summoned her most trusted advisors in secret and spoke only one sentence. "We leave." There was no debate. Escape woven in silence. Cleopatra moved like a shadow through Caesar's household. What she could not carry, she burned. What she could not protect, she abandoned. There would be no grand departure, no procession, no announcement. At night, under the cover of confusion and unrest, Cleopatra slipped out of Rome, not as a queen, but as a survivor. She did not look back. Rome had already chosen its path. Return to Egypt, return to danger. Alexandria welcomed Cleopatra cautiously. The city had learned not to celebrate too loudly. Egypt was stable, but Rome was bleeding. And when Rome bled, it lashed out. Cleopatra tightened her control, strengthened defenses, and spoke little of Rome or Caesar. But she knew peace would not last. Rome never stayed divided for long. The rise of three men. In Rome, power reorganized itself with brutal speed. Three men rose above the chaos. Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir, cold, patient, ruthless. Lepidus, politically useful, personally weak. Mark Antony, Caesar's general, charismatic, volatile, dangerous. Together they formed the second triumvirate, and Egypt was once again on Rome's map. A name that would not leave her. Cleopatra heard Mark Antony's name long before she met him. She heard he drank too much, that he laughed too loudly, that he loved war, women, and spectacle. She also heard he was loyal to Caesar's memory. That made him unpredictable. That made him important. The summons. The order arrived like a threat wrapped in formality. Cleopatra was commanded to meet Mark Antony in Tarsus, to explain herself, to justify her loyalty, to answer for Caesar's enemies. Cleopatra read the message once, then she smiled. Rome believed it was calling a subject to judgment. Instead, it was inviting a queen to choose her next ally. A different kind of battle. Cleopatra did not travel to Tarsus as she had traveled to Rome. This time she arrived on her own terms. Her ship was gilded, sails dyed deep purple, oars moving in perfect rhythm. Incense filled the air. Musicians played softly as she reclined beneath a canopy of gold, dressed as Isis reborn. This was not seduction. This was dominance. The city stopped to watch. And Mark Antony forgot how to breathe. Two predators measure each other. When Cleopatra met Antony, she did not rush him with charm or submission. She laughed. She mocked him lightly. She spoke of politics as if they were equals. She made him feel powerful and slightly unbalanced. Antony, who had faced armies without fear, found himself disarmed by a woman who did not need his approval. He realized something quickly. Cleopatra was not like the others. She did not need Rome. She wanted leverage, the beginning of something dangerous. They spoke through the night, about Caesar, about Rome, about power and betrayal and the cost of ambition. Antony saw intelligence where others had seen threat. Cleopatra saw opportunity where others saw chaos. By morning, the balance of power had shifted again. Cleopatra would return to Egypt untouched. Her enemies would be summoned and punished. And Rome, once more, would orbit her fate, a queen who chose her wars. As Cleopatra sailed back to Alexandria, she felt no relief, only clarity. Rome would never stop reaching for Egypt. Power would never stop demanding blood. But she had survived Rome once, and now she was no longer alone. She had chosen her next ally carefully, and the world would soon learn what happened when Cleopatra chose you. Alexandria had not seen Cleopatra like this before. She returned from Tarsus changed, not in appearance, but in presence. The city felt it immediately. Her walk was slower, deliberate, her voice softer, but sharper. She no longer reacted to Rome, she anticipated it. Mark Antony had not followed her physically, but his influence arrived before the ships finished docking. Rome had acknowledged her power. That acknowledgement came with consequences. Justice in the Queen's court. Cleopatra wasted no time. Those who had betrayed her during her exile, those who had whispered against her to Rome, were summoned to the palace. They arrived expecting mercy. They found judgment. Cleopatra did not scream. She did not rage. She listened as each man tried to justify his survival instincts. When they finished, she spoke calmly. "You did not fear Rome," she said. "You feared losing power." One by one they were removed. Some vanished quietly, others publicly. Egypt would not mistake silence for weakness again. Antony's shadow grows long. Mark Antony ruled Rome's eastern provinces now, and Egypt sat at the heart of them. His letters came often. They were not commands, they were invitations. Cleopatra read each one carefully, understanding the danger hidden in affection. Antony needed Egypt's wealth, grain, and legitimacy in the east. Cleopatra needed Rome divided. Their alliance was practical. Their attraction was not. The return of Antony. When Antony arrived in Alexandria, the city erupted. Not because he was Roman, but because Cleopatra wanted them to. Festivals were declared. Streets overflowed with music. Wine flowed freely. Alexandria became a city of indulgence, intellect, and excess. Rome would hear of it, and Rome would burn with envy. Antony and Cleopatra ruled together openly, laughing at Roman restraint, mocking its traditions. Philosophers debated in their presence. Poets sang their names together. They were not hiding. They were daring the world to object. Love or strategy? At night, away from spectacle, Antony revealed cracks beneath the armor. He spoke of Caesar, not as legend, but as a man betrayed. He confessed fears he would never speak in Rome. Cleopatra listened. She understood something vital. Antony was powerful, but unstable. He loved deeply, he trusted recklessly, and that made him dangerous to himself. Rome watches and waits. Octavian watched from a distance, younger, quieter, colder. While Antony drowned himself in Alexandria's luxury, Octavian sharpened his image in Rome. He painted Antony as weak, controlled by an Eastern queen, lost to pleasure and corruption. The Senate listened. Rome always listened to fear. The children who changed everything. Cleopatra gave birth again. Twins. Alexander Helios and Cleopatra Selene. Antony was present. Rome was furious. These children were not symbols of romance. They were threats to Roman dominance. Cleopatra named them loudly, publicly, intentionally. She was not hiding her legacy. She was announcing it. The donations of Alexandria. Then Cleopatra made her boldest move yet. At a grand ceremony, Antony declared vast eastern territories to Cleopatra and her children. Rome exploded. This was treason. This was unforgivable. Octavian did not argue. He waited. The war that could not be stopped. Rome declared war, not on Antony, on Cleopatra. Because Rome could forgive a traitorous man, it could never forgive a woman who challenged its authority. Cleopatra read the declaration calmly. She had known this moment would come. She looked at the Mediterranean and understood something ancient and terrible. Empires do not negotiate with queens. They destroy them.